So Super Rugby round 6. Results are all in. Made my calculations and it's time for the power rankings. Most teams are on the move, to be honest, even the teams on the buys. They're not immune to being shoved around with all the results that have come this weekend. A few teams either rise or drop pretty drastically. So there'll be some who'll be kind of pretty happy and some who will feel a bit hard done by. But that's the way it works, so we'll give it a go. Again, in 15th, is it ever going to change? It's not looking likely. They're really low. 5 losses in a row. Really bad one against the Chiefs this week. They're that far behind that even if they were to win next week and like teams in 13th, 14th lost, it probably wouldn't make a difference. They are really far behind. So it's not looking good for the Sunwolves. They're on a bye next week anyway, what am I saying? So yeah, they're going to be there next week as well. Done and dusted. 14th and down 1 is the Bulls. So the Bulls got some really nice credit with us early on in the season by beating a strong Hurricanes team at home. They didn't win by a heck of a lot. It was in home rather than Wellington. But still, you don't beat a team like the Hurricanes without getting some good kudos from us, the fans. But from there, it's just gone downhill. So it's 4 losses on the trot, 1 at home and 3 on the road. Yeah, it's not been a great month for the Bulls. So yeah, they are down at the bottom next to the Sunwolves. Got a home game next week, so they might be able to hopefully kind of pick it back up. There's kind of a few groupings starting to emerge in the power rankings, so it's not going to take them much to kind of catch some of the other teams who are on a similar plane to them at the moment. But I mean, they've got a 1 win out of 4 record, which is not ideal. Next, and also down 1 spot, is the Blues. So the Blues were on the bye. They didn't have to do anything and they still went down. More about a team behind them winning than them doing anything wrong. So, yep, they've been forced down a spot. In 12th and also down a place is the Sharks. Like the Bulls, the Sharks are another team on a pretty bad run. They've just had another pretty bad defeat, a worse defeat if anything, over in Australia. Still got 2 more games on their tour. They've only won 1 game all season, and it was against the Sunwolves. The Sharks needed to give me something before I can kind of lift them up. So they're not there at the minute. They're in the bottom row. So yeah. Once again, we've got South African, Australian and New Zealand conference represented, but no Australian teams. In 11th spot and up from 14th is the Jaguares. So they got a pretty impressive win. This is their 2nd win of the season over the high-flying Lions in Argentina today. Yeah, impressive. They were the underdogs going into this. Lions are a very strong team. Although they're at home, it was still a good victory for them. So credit to them for getting that. They've still got a negative record. All these teams have got negative records. This is kind of one little cluster, if you can call it that, of teams. Yeah, so pulling out of it a bit with 2 wins and 4 losses, but still not an ideal start. To be fair to all these teams below them, the Jaguares have played an extra game. So it's not going to take much for them to kind of make up ground if they kind of take that opportunity. So yeah, we'll see what happens. In 10th, and no change, is the Brumbies. So the Brumbies were on the bye. The Jaguares didn't do enough to kind of get equal with them because the Brumbies are on an equal record with 2 wins, 2 losses. So yeah, this is kind of where we start to see a divide in the bottom teams, and this is kind of the bottom of the mid-ranking teams at the moment on the power rankings. So yeah, no change for the Brumbies with the bye. Next, and down I think one spot, is the Waratahs. Another team on the bye, and another team kind of pushed down a spot by the other results that happened on the weekend. The Waratahs have got a 2-win, 1-loss, 1-draw record, so it's not terrible. It's not terribly exciting at the moment either, but yeah, it could be doing worse. Next, and down I think 3 spots. Pretty harsh, but it's the Reds. Now the Reds have got a positive record. So they're at 3 wins, 2 losses. So they're just one result into the positive, but they had a loss to the Stormers today. It was close. But the wins that they've gotten, and the way I'm kind of calculating these things, you know, they've not been by a whole heck of a lot, and they've not really beaten a contending team as yet. So we've kind of got to wait to see where they're fully at. Still good at giving them credit for the wins, but yeah, they're not setting the world on fire. Could definitely be worse, and still credit for getting those wins, like I say. But yeah, they're pushing things down a little bit with that loss today. So yeah, that rounds out the bottom 2 rows. Right into the top half, and up 2 spots are the Stormers. So the Stormers kind of benefit from having losses on the road to pretty strong teams in the Crusaders and the Highlanders. Can't penalise them. You still penalise them for the loss, but can't be too harsh on those results given how strong those teams are at home. But they've held up at home, so they've evened their record out after a pretty terrible tour where they lost 3 games on the trot. They've pulled their record even, so they're at 3 wins and 3 losses. Good win over the Blues, who were, after a win over the Lions, kind of starting to climb their way back up the table. The Reds, after having a win over the Jaguares, were on a pretty good spot on the table. So the Stormers are just slapping teams down. Anyone who's trying to come up, Stormers just slapping them down. So that might be what the Bulls get, but the Bulls aren't really trying to get up at the moment. The Bulls are still on the way down. So maybe it's a good omen for the Bulls for next week. We will see. In 6th, and possibly a bit harsh, but the Crusaders are at 6th. They did have a win, so they beat the Bulls. They brought their record back into positive territory, so they're at 3 wins and 2 losses. Home record's perfect. Away record is 0 so far. So yeah, it was a win over the Bulls. The Bulls are near the bottom, so we don't give them too much of a bump for that, so that they maintain their position with other teams kind of also getting wins, keeping them out of going anywhere higher. In 5th, and also maybe a bit harsh, it's a wee drop from the top for the Highlanders. So they're dropping down from 1st. They're kind of paying the price for having not played that many games. So when they were 3 wins from 3 games, that's a 100% record, but it only takes 1 loss to bring that down to 75%, which is a pretty sharp drop. So that's kind of reflected here. Still a good record with 3 wins, 1 loss. But yeah, record's not looking quite as flash with that loss kind of tainting things. But everyone's got a loss now, so comp's kind of evening up a bit. Still 4 spots dropped is pretty harsh. Next, down 2 spots is the Lions. When I started doing this, after like 2nd and 3rd week, there's no way I thought that the Crusaders and the Lions would both be out of that top row at all season. Maybe 1, but not 2. So yeah, Crusaders and Lions last season's finalists at 4 and 6. Both having dropped 2 games. We didn't see either of them drop many games last season, so for them both this early on in the season to have lost 2, yeah, it's just interesting to see what's happening. It's maybe the shrinking of the competitions bring a bit more parity in, which hopefully for us as fans gives it a bit more interest, because yeah, we like seeing some upsets and close games. It's kind of what makes it entertaining. Right, the top 3. Up 4 spots, which is a lot. The Chiefs. So the Chiefs really did a number on the Sunwolves, and you know, looking at that, it's not that hard to do a number on the Sunwolves, but it was away from home, and they have beaten the Blues away from home, so that's 2 kind of away wins that they've already notched up this season, in a season where it's really not easy to pick up away wins. So, I mean, even the Lions today showed that, not able to knock off the Jaguares, who were kind of down the bottom of this list last week. So, yeah, the Chiefs 2 away wins, a home loss to an away loss for them, so playing the Crusaders in Christchurch. You know, kind of an expected result. But other than that, the Chiefs have looked pretty good. So we've got them at 3. Yeah, they've got a good test next week with the Highlanders coming to town, so we'll see how they manage that one. Next, in 2 and up 2 spots is the Hurricanes. So them, the Chiefs and the Highlanders have all got a 3-win, 1-loss record. The Highlanders have only lost that one at the start of the season to the Bulls. Away loss, narrow, but against a kind of a lowly ranked team. But since then, they've managed to topple the Crusaders. They've managed to topple the Highlanders. So, you know, you've got to give them credit for those pretty big wins, because those New Zealand derby games in the last couple of years have been pretty, you know, tightly fought affairs. So they were comfortable in the end over the Highlanders, who were the number 1 team last week. So I'll give them a bit of a boost for that, but not enough to take number 1. Number 1. They weren't content having dropped last week, so they've bumped themselves back up. The Rebels, big win over the Sharks. Sharks not proving to be that strong an opponent this year so far, but still the Rebels. Yeah, all the opponents they've played have kind of come in for a bit of flack as not being very good teams, but still the Rebels have put them all to the sword. Apart from a bad loss to the Waratahs, the Rebels have just kind of demolished the teams they've been playing. So credit to them for that. They've got a 4-win, 1-loss record, which is the best record so far in Super Rugby. So they are number 1 on the power rankings. It makes a pretty mouth-watering clash next week between my number 1 Rebels and the number 2 Hurricanes, to see kind of who really is it that deserves that number 1 spot. The Rebels will need to prove to us that they are a contender, because the Hurricanes are a strong side. And then, interestingly, in the battle of last year's finalists, 4 and 6, they're facing each other next week, so that'll also be a good one to see where these guys are at. And then kind of with the lowly cellar dwellers, we've got the Sharks and the Blues playing. So there's a few good matchups next week. I imagine the board will shift around again as teams play. And yeah, you're definitely seeing teams who've not had as many games, still a bit behind teams who've played more. So the Rebels have played more than the teams behind them, at least some of them. Even the Lions have played more than some of them. So, you know, if these teams win these games in hand, teams who've dropped results are going to fall back. So we'll see how it goes. Let me know what you guys think. I always read the comments and try to comment back. You guys usually make pretty valid points when I read them. But this is it for now. It's not perfect, I know that. Sometimes I look at the results and go, not happy with that, or feels a bit much, or, you know, things like that. But yeah, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you again for Dream Team probably tomorrow. Catch you later.